and I read the civic affirmation. We gather today to duly and faithfully carry out our duties to the best of our judgment and ability for the advancement of this district and the benefit of all of our community and fellow citizens. The Coorong District Council acknowledges and pays respects. Coorong District Council acknowledges and pays respect to traditional custodians of the land and waters, the Nurrunjeri people, whose ancestral lands are on which we meet today. Acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of Aboriginal people to country and pay our respects to elders past and present. We also extend that respect to all First Nation people. Thank you, councillors. For one is apologies. I understand I have no apologies. For everyone's benefit, councillors Yench, Arthur, Qualman and Simmons are in the chamber, and councillors Bland, Hill, Taylor, Leng and Roundtree are all zooming in today. I know that we should be wearing the mask, but I think that it won't allow at least me to communicate easily to the mic, so I'm going to leave it down. Thank you. We move to agenda item of acknowledgements, please. First of all, I'd like to just acknowledge the passing of an ex-chairman of the Menangi Council, Mr. Alan Eckert, a few weeks ago. Alan always gave me frank and fearless advice, is how I would say it. He was a chairperson of the Menangi District Council from May 1987 to May 1991. He was, not only that, he was involved very much in what I call the Mallalong Ashfield community and in that area in particular. And he was very instrumental in that area and lots of ideas and things. Councillor Yench, you might want to add some. I'm not sure, sorry, how many years he served as a councillor. We're still tracking that down. Councillor Yench.
Yes, firstly, I had the privilege of serving with Alan when he was chairman, but also when he was a councillor on Menangi Council. I believe he served for about 15 years in the roles as chairman and as councillor. He was one of nature's gentlemen. He was a very dedicated member of our community, and I wish to extend my sympathy to his family for their and our loss. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other councillors wish to add anything? Councillor Bland, you're indicating?
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, I think it's probably all been said, but to reiterate from a community perspective, Mr. Eckert was a gentleman, very gentle soul, honest and very caring, and I wasn't on council during that time, but well-respected member of community. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for that. We move on to confirmation of minutes of the ordinary meeting held on July the 20th, 2021. Someone move that way, please. Councillor Qualman. Councillor Leng is the seconder. Is there any discussion? There being none, put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. There's a special meeting of council held on the 29th of July 2021. Someone move the confirmation of those minutes, please. Councillor Hill and Councillor Roundtree. Any discussion, councillors? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. There was a special meeting of council held on the 12th of August 2021. Someone prepared to move those minutes, please. Councillors Taylor and I'm going to go with Councillor Bland. Councillor Bland, I'd love to lighten up the background of your screen. I know that's difficult, but that's a lot better. Thank you. Any discussion around those minutes? There being none, I put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously again. Thank you. Adjourned business. Item 3, we have none. Item 4, minute action list. Councillors, anything arising from the minute action list?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Arthur.
163.21, Declaration of 21-2 Community Waste Management Scheme. Item 2 is a report be provided to Council by the second quarter 21-22 budget review. And then it says January 2022. Isn't the third review in December? August, and then first review of the budget is in August, is that correct?
Yeah, Mayor, the second one. The second budget review can be anywhere just before Christmas or just after Christmas. But I think the main point there is that the report will be January 22. It'll be just after Christmas. And we discussed that last meeting.
Okay.
Anything else, councillor? Is there anything else in the minute action list, councillors? Okay, we move on. Item 5.1, questions with notice. We start with councillor Leng's question with notice. Councillor?
Satisfied with the answers for 1 and 3. My requested answers regard to motions has not been answered satisfactorily, in my opinion. It's good to note, yes, I understand the budget plan and strategic planning all goes together, but it does not answer the question that I asked in regard to legality of the motion or motions.
Which part, councillor? I'm trying to read it. No, it's councillor Roundtree's. I'm looking at councillor Lang's.
Which?
I'm on the wrong page too, councillor. Sorry.
In particular, the Wellington East Reserve.
Page 5, Mr. Mayor.
It's not referenced.
So I'm on your first of 3 questions. Now I'm on the right page, councillor. And it's around CRM system we operate with. Are we on the same question, first of all? You've moved to question 2, your second question, which raises how we...
Second question, in regard to motions.
Yeah.
The CEO has given us a response which isn't relative to the actual legality of having 3 motions to do with the one subject, none of which have been revoked as the next one has been made. So this is the case with the Wellington East Reserve. There are 3 outstanding motions with slightly varying recommendations. I asked for which one it actually gives precedence to, which I believe should be the first one of 2016. But I will furnish more details to the CEO to try and get a solid answer.
Councillor, so my understanding of the Act and the regs is that council decisions, I'm going to use the word a flux, is not the right word, but a new council decision, when a new council comes in, it can change the decision without revoking it. But as a normal position, council would carry on with the previous council's how many years back position, and unless the new council effectively changed it, which doesn't mean the new council has to revoke it. The question probably then becomes, is in the current term, has this council moved 2 motions in relation to the same thing, which may be either substantially different or contrary? But that's my understanding of the Act.
Well, I would like to see that in writing, and that's what I asked for. I want a legal response.
Okay. So you'd like to pay for that, a council to pay for that, councillor?
Yes, if necessary.
Okay, we'll give that some consideration. Now, you've got a third question, councillor.
Satisfied with the response?
Hey, hang on. Sorry, I'm just going to stop. Just sorry, hold it for a sec. Councillor Taylor's got something in relation to the second question. Is that right?
I have, Mayor. I'd like to know, do we need to revoke it?
Revoke
Because
what?
the original motion, I assume, was the one regarding the sale of the blocks of land in order to build the toilets. Is that right?
No, his question does not refer specifically to that, and I don't know how many motions in this council have been around that subject.
So
we're
what
gonna
does
pull-
the motion refer to then?
It
Which
refers.
motion are we looking at?
No, well, there is no motion. It's a question with notice. There's no motion on the floor at the moment, but it's around a governance decision around how long a decision of a council is held to be valid. And if a new council comes in and doesn't continue on with a previous decision of a previous council, do they obliged to follow it, A, or if they want to do something different, should they revoke a previous council's decision? I think that would need some more work, Councillor. Councillor, are you happy? I'm now looking at Councillor Roundtree.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to just know a bit more about why Councillor Lang wants a legal opinion on this. Like, to me, I feel like we're missing some information as to why we need to spend money on getting a legal opinion to resolve this matter. Has something in particular happened that has provoked this, or is this just out of information? Like, I feel like I don't have enough information on this one.
At this stage, Councillor, we're not in a debate about it. I think I will take it on board to seek some more governance advice on the subject in the first case. But
Through you,
Through
Mayor.
you, Mayor, if any money is going to be spent on getting legal advice, can we have some workshopping around why that money needs to be spent?
I, as presiding member, need to have some more advice myself. That is my understanding. I need to confirm that somehow.
That's through you, Mayor. The question doesn't relate to any particular motion. It's quite a general question. So I did have trouble answering it, and I will admit that, because without an example of what the question is about, it was very difficult except to give a broadest of answers. If what we will do is pull out all the motions as they relate to Wellington East, because this question doesn't refer to Wellington East at all in the question, to have a look to see if there's something that has not been done correctly or everything is okay. So we'll pull those motions out to see if the question that Councillor Lang has asked refers to those motions, or whether really just what the state of play is, to be honest.
Councillor Taylor again, but I'm on questions with notice. It's not a debate.
So it may not be a debate, but at the same time, it's very confusing. The question, it doesn't actually say anything very much apart from, how long is a motion live for? So, why is the question being asked when the answer is given?
So I think I'm not going to paraphrase you, Councillor Lang, but you're interested in a motion that was moved in about 2016 in relation to land at Wellington East. And I just think we need to get more advice around the status of motions previous, and we both said that.
Correct.
Hang on. Councillor Lang quickly, then Councillor Roundtree.
In this case of Wellington East, there are 3 motions relative to the one subject with slightly varying recommendations. In my understanding of motions, before the second one is put forward, the previous one should have been revoked. In this case, we have 3 motions all to do with the same subject, and none have been revoked.
So Councillor Watt, like I said, let's seek some more advice. Councillor Roundtree, to the end.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mayor. That's what Councillor Lang said just then. Adds a bit more information as to why we're even going down this trip. Yeah, I think some more idea of cost.
Councillor Bland, your background's gone dark and now it's light. It's a miracle. We've got a third question, Councillor Lang, around fee waivers.
No, satisfied with the response to that. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. That's your 3 questions.
Councillor Bland might want to close the blind behind her. I think the light coming in through the window is causing the light fluctuation on her computer.
Certainly changes constantly. But she's on mute, so I can't hear her. Councillor Roundtree, you have a question there? Information to be provided at the next meeting?
Yep. I will probably contact the CEO with the name of someone who may be able to help with getting this data, but I'm just curious. I raised it before I was, looking for an answer, but September isn't too far away to wait for a proper answer, so I'm happy with the response.
Thank you. And councillor, my last question on notice is around councillor Taylor. You answer there, councillor?
Yeah, fine. Thank you.
No worries. I'll take that as done. Questions without notice, councillors? Is there questions without notice? Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just wanted to inquire with the council that the remediation works, I'll get it out in a minute, the paving and turf work on the area where the old Tile and Bend toilets used to stand. Was this cost incorporated in the original building of the new toilets budget, or is this an additional cost, please?
PM, the director will
If through you, Mr Mayor, the landscaping, the landscaping and paving works was incorporated into the toilet cost in the original budget.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
We'll await the final wrap up of the Taylor Bend toilet costs, but they're in that original budget line, first instance.
Very good.
Councillor Taylor.
Mayor, I did request a weed spraying schedule across the district, and the response from the CEO was staff are working on the coordinated and proactive response to weed management. January 2021, did I miss that being released?
we had done, sorry, through you, Mayor, we have done some work with that, and with the new director coming on board, he's incorporating it into a larger piece of work, but I'll pass over to him.
Yeah, thanks, Bridget. Through the Mayor, the weed management of footpaths and verges within townships has commenced. Commenced this week. Part of the ongoing process with management of weeds and other vegetation on road reserves will form part of a more detailed operational management plan for all roads, and then it will include a weed spraying schedule and also the level of service that we are going to provide to the community. That will incorporate areas that are no spray areas and other areas that require more attention if they've got noxious weeds, for example, but it'll spell out the number of times we spray or grade classification and whether it's urban or rural.
Have we got an expected time?
The expected time frame for the plan will be delivered after the asset management plan for the roads and transport infrastructure. So it's likely to be in the second quarter of this financial year. The intent is to have it endorsed by council before Christmas. There will be workshops involved in discussing levels of service before that's endorsed.
Councillor, are you happy?
I think so. I only heard half of that.
It'll be
Put it down.
come to a council workshop before Christmas is the short answer.
And we'll send it out.
Thank you.
Once we work. Any other questions without notice? Councillor Arthur.
Yes, at the previous meeting, I questioned the fees and charges for 21-22 regarding the e-waste. I can ascertain that the National Television and Computer Recycling Scheme, NTCRS, which was established in 2011, is still operable, and we are charging for items that should be free. We have made no adjustment to the schedule, so I'm just wondering if we could get and do that.
We will take that on notice and do that, Councillor Arthur.
Have another one?
And the second question is, one of the resource hire, the water meter installation of $282.50, that was going to be looked at to get an actual proper costing because it was very, very cheap compared to any other organisation who put meters in. So we were going to actually have a look at that. I wonder if that's in hand or still in the pipeline.
Yes. Around our cost of installation of water meters, and I think
Yes.
I'm really broadening it out of putting in a SWIMS connection were quite cheap. Are they being looked at? So I think the question. They are being looked at. Okay, any other questions?
And finally, sir,
I've got one more.
finally, just the council provided as a part of the community grants, a defibrillator to put at the Menengi office, I think you call it. It was given to the Lions, and the Lions were to make sure it was working. The Lions Club accept responsibility for the device, including all security measures, maintenance and servicing. I just wonder if these be serviced because the battery has to be changed every 3 years. And it is over 3 years. So I'm wondering if we can get in touch with the Lions to make sure that that is now still an operable machine.
Excuse me, councillor, what are you reading from?
Sorry. Part of the community, we gave the money to the Menengi Lions Club to purchase a defibrillator, which was, as far as I knew, was be put on the council chambers. Now it's well over 3 years now, and you need the battery. So wherever they may have put it somewhere else. I don't know. Sharon can help me.
Councillor, I'll start with Councillor Lang because it's the first voice I've heard.
Thank you. It was never supplied because the Lions Club didn't like it being provided externally of the building and them taking responsibility. So it was never purchased and never supplied.
Councillor Bland.
I concur with what Councillor Lang has said. It is never supplied. There was the protocol for setting that up, it just wasn't seen as safe or suitable.
That's never supplied, never happened, Councillor.
We don't have to worry about the battery then.
Don't have to worry about the battery. No, I don't think so. Okay, any other questions without notice? There being no more, we move on. Reports, item 6.1, the Mayor's reports. There, councillors. Any questions? Councillors, excuse me. Taylor, then Roundtree.
Through you, Mayor, meeting at the golf course. Anything to report?
Not at this stage, councillor. Discussions are continuing.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Roundtree.
Thank you, Mayor. 22nd of July, anything to expand on with the Thomas Food expanding Miranda?
Well, it was a first meeting, great for myself at least, and this was a Zoom meeting. No, we're very, very positive about where they're heading with their feedlot expansion. And as we've discussed earlier, they will be very much in support of us improving not only Karkuma Road, but Heinrich Road. And will no doubt add their support to that in terms of a lobbying effort. And my understanding is their construction of their new facility at Murray Bridge is at this stage on track, which is positive for the region. And in terms of employment, probably the biggest challenge for the region is when we bring a lot more employees back in for that facility.
So that was my next question. Was there much discussion around housing or what sort of numbers they were looking at for employment or infrastructure for staff?
I'll get the CEO to sort of go around that.
So housing, as you know, councillors, is a difficult issue across the region. Thomas Foods seem to indicate that they have a development and construction arm as well. So they are looking at opportunity for developing some houses themselves. So we did alert them to some grants and funding arrangements that are available through the Commonwealth, not at the moment to private enterprise, but we sent it to them because a review of that particular thing through Minister Suter is happening. The Mayor and I had a conversation about that while we were in Canberra and alerted Thomas Foods. Whether they participate or whether they give some feedback to the Commonwealth is up to them. But they were indicating that they were looking at opportunities from within their own company to provide some housing.
Thank you.
And I might add, councillor, I very much thank them on behalf of our council area for their donation to the Tailem Bend Netball Club.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Councillor Bland, I think your hand's up.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. In relation, on the 29th, you met with Minister Passon, particularly in relation to the airport. I'm interested in what was said about the Murray-Darling Basin Healthy Rivers program.
This was a photo opportunity, councillor, more than a meeting. So I think in relation to the grant that was around up on the Lake Albert Road area around Reeds, even though we may not have taken the photo in exactly that spot. Look at the CEO, what else we discussed in that meeting, because it was a photo run.
It was really only those two, because the announcement from the Commonwealth was happening on that day, and he was, Tony Passon was keen that there was a photo opportunity around the funding itself. It was.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Move on to Councillor Lang's report. Anything you want to add, Councillor Lang?
Sorry. No, I think there's enough in there.
Certainly. Okay. No other councillors had reports this month. Fine. Item 7.
Excuse me, Councillor.
Councillor Taylor.
Put a hand up.
Got a royal wave going on, so I'm trying to work you out. Yes.
Through you, Mayor. So the report from Councillor Lang for the 18th and 19th of May, were you present at those two meetings?
I was.
No.
And so were they on behalf of the councillors, or? Because I don't remember an invitation coming out to meet these people.
Councillor Lang, what capacity was that? Was it to do with the Environmental Trust or?
I was invited as a councillor and representative of the Lakes Ward, as I believe you were.
And you and me had this discussion, but I never recall being invited. But that's not making excuse for that.
And in accordance with the CEO comment some time back, these don't need to be scheduled meetings, but more advice to show our constituents what sort of work we're doing out there in their community.
I'm not debating it, actually. Councillor Bland, around that.
Just so that you're aware, on the 18th, I also has been invited as a councillor and attended.
Okay, that'll be in your report, Councillor.
It will, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Taylor.
So in Councillor Lang's report, he also has 26th of July meeting with Nick McBride. Was that with the CEO present?
It's just via phone, Councillor. I
Sorry,
don't
I've
think
lost
the CEO
you.
was present.
It was just a phone conversation in regard to matters concerning Policeman's Point, which the CEO is aware of.
Are the rest of us aware of it? Because obviously it's in your report as a councillor, so I'd like to know what's happening at Policeman's Point.
So, well, I think the council has been pursuing issues around road hazards, and I know the councillor has been particularly around Policeman's Point and the bend there. And with DIT, we flag these things continuously. In a broad sense, maintenance of the road edge or verge or that by DIT, and all three of our highways in this council area is showing the signs of winter. I'm assuming that's what this is about, councillor.
Policeman's Point in particular is concerning complaints by residents of Policeman Point in regard to the speed limit through Policeman's Point, unsigned road junction, and traffic hazard due to trucks travelling at high speed, 100 kilometres an hour or more, and coming around a blind bend, heavy vegetation, and finding a car stopped in the middle of the road, turning into the settlement or subdivision. A road that I must say was created in 2014 and had never been signed as a road junction.
Is that a public road, councillor, or a
it is a public road. It goes into our council reserve and a subdivision of Coorong Waters.
And that probably needs some more work.
And that's what we, if you recall, not that many months ago, I think Miles handled it in regard to the 270 issue.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Bland.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Nick McBride also spoke to us at when we attended a meeting at Salt Creek in relation to the Coorong on exactly the same issue. So he is well aware and following it up, and potentially was from Councillor Leng's conversations with him.
Councillors, as you'd be aware, the first point of call around these sort of issues is to approach the CEO, and then we will send an email to people required, usually in DIT, around this subject. Councillor Roundtree.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a point of clarification from the CEO. With our reports, are we supposed to write down when we do go out and look at things for constituents, or just the meetings, just so we're clear and all on the same page?
Through you, Mayor. The meetings would be the bare minimum. I think this is a report about what you're doing in the community. So it's not for my benefit per se, it's for the residents who read these reports who know what's going on in the community. With the Policeman's Point one, that issue has been raised with us. We've written to DIT, who were flagged with them. I've also spoken with Nick McBride because he rang saying, do we need any help with providing some leverage to DIT? He was happy to supply a letter of support. I told him at that stage we had already written and we were halfway through, backwards and forwards, if you like, with them. I'm not sure, I'm looking at Matt here, but I don't think that conversation's finished. I think they've decided they'll prune the trees and trim the vegetation, but I'm not sure they've come any further with speed limits and things like that.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. So with something like this, I feel there's a gap here. There are 9 members of this council covering the whole district, and one councillor having conversations with a potential member of parliament for our district is important to all of us. So, you know, I'd like to know exactly what's going on at the far reaches of our district, especially when it comes to a request, no doubt maybe a request in future for support for funding of something like this. It sounds a serious issue, and therefore I would like certainly more exposure of these sort of items, not just to read it in a councillor's report that a councillor is dealing with these matters, because it affects the whole district and all of us as councillors. And it's advisory as well to know exactly what's going on at all of the sections, roads, whatever's happening in our district. So I'm disappointed that we haven't sort of been included. I think I remember an email, we were included in an email, but an update on conversations with MPs, etc. We haven't been included in that information, so that's disappointing.
So, Councillor, 2 parts, like I've said. Start with discussing with the CEO around putting a complaint in through our system to DIT, and secondly, I encourage councillors to report on if they have other discussions. I wouldn't say negotiations would be appropriate, other discussions with other representatives of government at different levels. Councillor Hill.
We're often called by constituents to come and look at things. I don't recall getting invited to lots of other things that other councillors get invited to. So I think we just need to be a bit aware that some things are just, my cat's going crazy in the background.
Yes, I can see the map of the Coorong's moving.
Yeah, Glenn let it out the laundry. So yeah, where would you stop? And the other thing is, Councillor Ling has raised this issue of Policeman's Point on a couple of occasions during meetings, and it has been discussed. So it's not something that's happening behind closed doors or behind people's backs. So I think we do need to be a bit judicious on which conversations are put out, because a lot of people approach us with confidential requests and things. So I put in when I go out and about and look at general issues or attend meetings, but not every ratepayer or residents' inquiries.
Thank you. I'm just hoping we're at the end of that little discussion, councillors. Are we? Taking that as a yes. I'm moving on to number 7, notice of motion. Number 1 of that is Councillor Arthur, Waste Services Management. You want to move that way, councillor?
After the comment by the CEO, I am prepared to change that motion just to have item 3, that the council comply with the Local Government Act 1999 and make provision for waste management reserve within the financials account. The portion of the act is as follows. It's no good waiting until we have it. It's a legislative requirement. So I'd move that way, that we do that at this stage.
So for everyone's benefit, items 1 and 2 of this notice of motion have been removed.
Yes.
So I'll read the lead part of item 3. Council comply with the Local Government Act 99, make provisions for a waste management reserve within the financial accounts. The portion of the act is basically around section 155, councillors, and there's a long piece around that. You've moved that way, councillor?
Sorry?
You moved that way?
Yes, I moved that one.
You're a seconder? Councillor Qualman is the seconder. You are supposed to speak, Councillor Qualman?
Thank you, Mr. Bear. Well, as it spells out, if it's a legislative requirement, we should be doing it.
There is probably more parts to that act than what's being quoted here. I think it would be risk, with all due respect, Councillor Arthur, to endorse that without the whole of the part of the act being quoted and understood. So I would ask more that I come back with a report on that particular section of the act and how it's done now and what's required of us and whether we are incomplete or in doing something not in line with the act.
Councillor Taylor.
Through you, Mayor, I'd like this to lay on the table until the CEO has been able to take a look at the other parts of the Act, etc., before moving forward with this motion, because I don't fully understand. I mean, I do understand what a reserve is, but I don't fully understand the implications of the parts of the Act which we can't say, and therefore I wouldn't like to the motion to not get up. Because we're not privy to all of the information that should be in there. So I'd like this to be deferred.
So you're moving for it to be adjourned to a certain date, councillor?
Yes, please.
Do you wish to give us a date? We need a date, don't we, Ashley? So it'll be a month or so's time before, as the CEO's commented, presentation workshop to council in order for us to understand that.
In which case it needs to be a couple of months then, because potentially the workshop will be next month. So the motion will be brought back the month after that.
Until the October meeting, I think you were saying.
Yes.
You've moved that way, Councillor Bland. I'm looking for a seconder now.
I'm seconding it.
Thank you. You've got to speak to it.
Not necessary, thank you.
Right, that's a formal motion, councillors. That means that it is to be adjourned until October 21, pending a report between that time around the subject. The motion would be adjourned if this motion gets up. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Those against? So that's carried, but it's carried 8 councillors to 1. Councillor Arthur voting against it, sorry. Against the adjournment. You move to your second motion, councillor.
I realise we are going through a waste management strategy with the LGA. I still believe that we have a tendency to put stuff out to contract, but we've got nothing to compare it with. Now, I can't see how it is so hard for us to go out and get an in-house competitive tender for the pickup of rubbish. And this is all it is the pickup of rubbish. We used to run it ourselves at a cost of originally $80 per unit many years ago, and then it changed. So my idea is we get a competitive pickup for the pickup of rubbish anyway. The other thing is about this, I have been comparing our fee with many, many councils of like, and we are paying exorbitant compared to others. And it's not, and as the CEO will point out, would you point out with that, it's not just what we're paying, it's what we're getting. And other councils pay less than us. They get a dozen free trailer loads to the dump. They get, some of them get rebates, 140, they pay 350, a bit cheaper than us. They get a $140 rebate for pensioners. And comparison, it really needs to be looked at. We have never been able to see the previous contract and how the money was worked out. I've asked for it a couple of times, but we've never ever seen it. So that is my idea. That's what council should be doing, is finding out and being competitive. So I'll move that way.
As it reads, councillor.
Yep.
Yep. You're a seconder. Councillor Bland, you're the seconder, I believe. If you put your hand up. You wish to add?
I have a question.
You've got a question. Go.
And my question through you, Mr. Mayor, is that if we're going back to look at what we did previously, are we talking about going back 10 years ago and how we actually managed waste non-EPA compliant then? As things have moved forward, we wouldn't really be comparing appropriately. Just a thought.
No, I don't think the councillor's actually saying that we're going to do it in breach of the law. That's not how I'd read it. But I think what he's raised interesting around what rebates and other bits are attached to the price of our service. But I'm still looking for a seconder. Councillor Taylor, are you the seconder?
No, I'm not. I have a question.
Yes.
So I find that, through you, Mayor, I find the question is confusing. Is Councillor Arthur asking for a price for us to do all of the work instead of getting a contractor to do it?
Asking for a competitive price for the pickup of rubbish only, same as the contractor does for us now. Picks the rubbish up. It would mean the purchase of a truck. It would mean someone to drive it. You know, one of the queries was, he couldn't drive more than 8 hours. Well, you can do horses that they can drive more than that. So I believe that, you know, we have had a tendency of the last few years, particularly with the last CEO, to whack everything out to tender instead of looking about how we could do it for ourselves. And this, if it works out, we're a lot dearer, so be it.
I'm going to take Councillor Roundtree and then Councillor Yench, but for that, I'm going to ask the Director to give us thoughts around this.
You, Mayor, and through you, I'm aware of the 68 councils in South Australia, and I'm aware of about 30 that are involved in subsidiary waste management collection services. And that's only looking from Adelaide South. We currently do have a competitive tender for the collection of our waste through our current contractor. I don't know the exact figures of what the per bin collection is. For council to implement a compliant waste management service in-house would require us to purchase probably more than one compactor truck due to contamination. Would have to employ multiple people. We'd also be taking half full trucks to a landfill depository somewhere outside of our area to dispose of the waste. Waste management is an economies of scale business. It's something that is changing considerably. This discussion that we're having right now will be different next week, and it'll be different the next month, and it'll be different in 12 months. Waste management is going to change considerably. Legislation is changing. Federal government and the state government stance on waste management is changing. And it's something that we need to be across, and it's something that councils individually will no longer, in my opinion, be delivering by themselves. It's something that we have to do cooperatively with other councils and region-wide, if not statewide.
I'm going to go to Councillor Roundtree and ask if she's a seconder.
Taking on board what the Director has said, Councillor Arthur has been asking for this information, and I feel wanting to get to the bottom of the comparative costs for a very long time. In some ways, I think it's useful for this motion to be on the books as having been asked. I think the answer from the director makes perfect sense, but I also see that Councillor Arthur needs to ask this question and have it either supported or not. Either way, the question will have been asked. He will have done what he feels is something he's wanted to do for a long time. Taking on board what everyone said, it was a good question. Things are changing going forward. So I will second the motion for Councillor Arthur.
Okay, so councillor, you seconded this one.
Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Yench.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, whilst I agree with aspects of this motion, I disagree with the timing. I believe it should be placed with the workshops that we're having, would be more appropriate, and therefore I move that this motion lay on the table and be dealt with in conjunction with the previous motion.
Adjourned.
Motion's adjourned, councillor. It's the words we need to use, I think. I think we can.
Thank you.
Adjournment motion. Is there a seconder for the adjournment motion, councillors? Councillor Ling is the seconder. There is no debate around an adjournment motion. Therefore, I put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried, councillors, with councillors Taylor, Rountree and Arthur, sorry, voting against it, against the adjournment motion. And the other councillors, Qualman, Yench, Simmons, Ling, Bland and Hill, voting for the adjournment. So the adjournment means the motion's adjourned. Thank you, councillors. Move to motions without notice, councillors. Councillor Hill, thank you. Yes, you're first.
Okay, I would like to move that the Section 41 Committee, Lower Lakes and Coorong Infrastructure Committee, come out of recess to discuss the distribution of the community funds currently being held by the Meningie Progress Association.
That's what you mean.
So if we set that through beforehand, councillors, I know what you mean, but
yeah, this was a one I missed. I missed the cutoff, and
yeah,
I have emailed it to all the councillors for them to have a bit of a look at the backgrounding on it.
So Ashley, we got a copy of that there.
Yep.
And can you read it, Ashley? Is your mic live?
Yes, it's just this.
To the mic. Ashley's just going to read Councillor Hill's motion since she sent it through.
As Councillor Hill just stated, she moves that Section 41 Committee, the Lower Lakes and Coorong Infrastructure Committee, come out of recess to discuss the distribution of the community funds currently in the care of the Meningie Progress Association.
That's as you'd like it, Councillor Hill?
Yes,
Want to speak to it now or not?
I'll wait.
Wait, thank you. Councillor Bland was the second hand.
I will second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Do you want to speak?
Yes, I will speak now. As you would know, the Lower Lakes and Coorong Infrastructure Committee was set up as a part of the drought process, and a significant amount of money was raised by the community. Once the waters returned and much of the lobbying and the money wasn't required at the time, it was, as we don't hold reserve accounts, the money was removed from council's care, as we were a section committee, into Meningie Progress Association for their care, but it is still community money. Now, there's some time on, and as Councillor Hill has indicated, it's time we made some decisions about where that money and community would go, and it probably means a much wider conversation than just Meningie Progress at this point, in my opinion, but I wait to have that conversation later.
Okay, Councillor Taylor.
Through you, Mayor, I'm just trying to read the background to this. So the money is held by the Progress Association, I'm assuming, and what they want to do is get together in order to spend it. Is that correct?
Last the mover.
I'm the council rep on the Meningie Progress Association Committee, and they've made several requests to be able to utilise that money for whatever purpose they see fit. They actually withdrew the interest from that term deposit that they currently have it on their books, and used the interest without going back to this Section 41 committee. I think it's time we cleared it up. It's been an outstanding item for many years, and I feel that a decision has to be made one way or another about this community raised money, whether it's used for another purpose or whether it's just handed over to the Progress Association. I don't have an opinion one way or the other at the moment on that, but it definitely needs to be discussed by the Section 41 committee.
Thank you for that. But just get the CEO to comment on where we at this stage see the position.
So this committee was dissolved in 2012, I think, from memory. I'm not sure we could just reconstitute it. I think it would have to be that we would almost have to have a new committee and to look at it. This is not council money we're talking about, it's community money. And I wondered if there was another mechanism rather than the committee that we have a discussion with the community who raised it and the Progress Association who are looking after it. I'm not quite sure it's as simple as it sounds. But I'm more than happy to look at a mechanism. I don't think the committee can be just reconstituted.
So, councillors, my thoughts, and I was around at that stage. I don't think the motion is adverse to a result, but I would think the motion would empower the Chief Executive Officer to find out what the circumstances around it. And I did come to a progress meeting with Councillor Hill some months ago, and I remember they did raise it again, Councillor. So I don't see that the motion is adverse to any result, but it would encourage us to find out what was possible or what we were responsible for. So I'm going to leave the motion as it stands. I don't think we can bring a committee out of recess, but we could re-establish one. Or we could have a committee of one. But I think that first of all, the motion empowers us to find out what's happened up to now and where we can go from here. Councillor Taylor, then Councillor Bland and Councillor Yench.
Through you, Mayor, can we add this to the list of deferred motions so that it gives the CEO just a little bit of time to work out what the best
Councillor, if you want to
way forward is for it?
You want to adjourn it, just to move an adjournment motion.
All right, I move an adjournment for a month. I think it's obvious it needs to happen, and I fully support it. I just want to make sure that it goes in the right direction and the money ends up with the community or the people who raised it or whatever the Progress Association wants to do for it.
Councillor Corman, you're a seconder for adjournment on this one? Can I speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It sounds a bit complex. I totally agree with the intent of the motion, but I agree with what Councillor Taylor says, and we'll give it to the CEO to try to make some sense out of it. Thank you.
So, councillors, I'm obliged to put that motion immediately. Those in favour? Those against? So it's carried 8-1 with Councillor Yench being the person voting against that adjournment for 1 month, so we can try and get a better understanding of the intent.
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, certainly.
What's the difference between a recess and disbanding something? Because the minute of the meeting was recess.
I don't know, councillor. That's why we need more work. That's my problem.
If it was only last year, that, you know, if it was contemporary, but this is 2012. So I think the motion as it stands will give us some opportunity to work out how to do it, given that it's not council money. It's community money, which is a nebulous term to start with. So I just think there's a little bit of work to work out how we do that and who gets it. The options are it stays where it is. Does it come back to council, or is it given to a third party altogether, or distributed back to the community? There are quite a few early questions there.
Mr Mayor, one of the questions,
Councillor Arthur, and then Councillor Bland.
one of the questions should be asked is where it actually came from
Community.
and what the explanations were for it.
Yeah.
You know.
That's why we need some more work. Councillor Bland, you've got that look of frustration. Yeah, but you need to unmute because that was even more frustrating for me. Councillor, I need you to unmute. I'm going to try for a third time, Councillor. I need Councillor Bland to unmute to speak.
No, I'll see.
Right.
Councillors, I'm just going to.
There we go, finally. Through you, Mr Mayor, can I just make the comment that the Infrastructure Committee was set up, but the money as a part of the Infrastructure Committee account, if I remember, was a Saviour Lower Lakes and Coorong account, which money was raised by all of the community, so it would be difficult to give it to any one party. And I'd be more than happy to talk to the CEO in relation to all of that setup. So I think we need to go back to the minutes, but back to the terms of reference and then some follow on. I'm more than happy to have a look at that in relation to the Saviour Lakes accounts.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there anyone else wishes to add? Well, there's nothing to add, to be quite honest. The motion's been adjourned. Just thank you, Councillor Hill, for bringing that up because that has been lurking around for a while. Who seconded? Was Councillor Qualman was the seconder of that adjournment motion. Lucky I've still got a pen, even it's yours, Courtney. Okay, councillors, any other motions without notice? There being none, I move on. The Office of the Chief Executive Report, Local Government Association Roads and Works Conference. There is a report there, councillors. Have we got, obviously, have we got a split up of whether what the costs are for only one day, this conference, since it's at Murray Bridge, councillors?
Is it in the company here?
Was it in the, we had some discussion prior to this around costs of just attending on the
Doesn't say me.
doesn't say. Be that as it may,
Oh, yeah.
we're just looking that up. Is there councillors wishing to attend that works conference? Councillor Arthur, Chair of Committee.
Right.
You wish to attend?
Yeah.
Any other councillor? Councillor Qualman, do you wish to attend? This makes two councillors, I think you've signalled. Councillor Bland, is your hand up?
It is, Mr Mayor.
As in you wish to attend?
Correct.
Very good, thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Taylor.
Through you, Mayor, no, I don't wish to attend, but I do think it would be worthwhile for those on the Infrastructure and Assets Committee to attend.
So on day one is the cost. Ashley is the one they were talking about, the main day. The second day is quite truncated if we look at it. It only goes to lunchtime. So Thursday, the 7th of October, I think it's the day we're talking about, councillors. So the cost for day one is $250 per registration. Any other councillors wish to attend? I probably should put my name on that list, I think, at this stage. 1, 2. Councillor Roundtree's gone off channel. She's also a member of the committee. How many councillors have got?
I'm still here. Can you please ask the question again?
This is around attendance at the Works Conference, which happens to be at Murray Bridge. And at this stage, most of us are of the view that we attend for $250 each, the one day on the Thursday, the 7th of October at Murray Bridge.
I'd be in support of attending for one day. I'm not quite seeing the value in 2 days, but yes, I'd support one day, and I would probably go for one day.
So that would be the entire membership of the committee, I believe. I think you're on the committee if I remember, councillor. No others? 1, 2, 3, 4 councillors don't want it. So 5 councillors do. Do I want to go to the dinner? For that price, no.
I think you should, well, I think one of you or the CEO or both of you should go, but I don't think there's any need for myself to go. I'm happy not to go to the dinner.
Well, we're not proposing any of us go to the dinner at this stage.
Good. Excellent. I think there's value in yourself and the CEO going though, Mayor.
We do that. Okay. Councillors Arthur, Qualman, Simmons, Bland and Rountree, being the members of the Works Committee, would like to register for the day 1 of the Works Conference at Murray Bridge. Councillor Qualman, you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to say something. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When this issue first came up, when the first discussion on the agenda, that was my idea, just to have one day. And I thought I didn't when we attended to that one at me, Councillor Taylor, and the former director, David Moselle at Arndorf. Yeah, that was very nice. And we didn't stay for the dinners and stuff. We just went down every day. And I thought, well, even better just for the one day to cut the costs down. But I think it would be pretty rewarding and comprehensive and informative. So on the one day sounds good.
Yeah, thank you. You I've got a mover and a seconder somewhere. Where have I put them?
I don't think so yet.
We haven't. There you go. Councillor Qualman, you'll move. There a seconder somewhere. Councillor Bland is your seconder, councillor. You happy with that?
I am, Mr.
That 5 councillors, in fact, our Works Committee attends the one day of the conference, Murray Bridge, for a cost of $250 each. Any debate around that, councillors?
Just one question.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Mayor. Would not it be prudent that the infrastructure and assets director go and probably
Well,
one of
they'll
his
do that
offside?
under there.
Because normally that's what happens. It's 2 or 3, or a couple of elected members plus the, shall we say, the hierarchy of the.
I think we would leave. We don't have to endorse them going to the conference, or perhaps he's got too many old mates up there. I don't know. But I understand we don't need to move a motion that he will attend. I understand you may attend. But, but yeah. So we don't need to, councillor.
Yes, we previously have, that's all.
Yeah.
Previous years.
Wouldn't get much closer to home, councillor. Run it ourselves.
Maybe next year.
Any further debate, councillors, around this? Being none, you'll close, councillor Qualman.
You're close.
All right, councillors, it is that, as we've discussed, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Arthur, are you voting? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Item 2 is section 270, annual review, council's decisions. Recommendation there. Councillor Rountree, you have got a question or you're moving it?
I'm happy to move it.
Thank you. You don't want to speak to it now?
Not at the moment.
Councillor Taylor, are you the seconder?
I am.
Thank you. You want to speak now?
No.
Any discussion, councillors? You had anything, Bridget, around this at all?
No, it's just an annual report of what happened over the year, Mayor.
It's an annual report. There you are. There's 2 things there. Any further discussion? So Rountree, you'll close.
Closed.
Thank you. Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Item 3 is, we should have probably moved to incorporate this, Ashley, in our start of this meeting. This is around.
It was on the agenda, there was just no report.
There's just no report. So, councillor, someone move that way. There is a late agenda item which relates to it. Councillor Lang and Councillor Bland at this stage. Councillor Lang, is that what you want? Yes. And read your lips just.
Oh,
Councillor
sorry,
Bland.
yes.
Councillor Bland, you're happy just as it is?
I am.
Yep, thank you. Any discussion?
Close.
Close, thank you. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Council policies. Item 9, there is nil. Number 10, section 41, committees, and section 43, subsidiaries. How's that gone for me? Item number 1 there, Infrastructure and Assets Committee. Someone move that way, please. Councillor Roundtree.
I just have a question as well.
Certainly. You're moving it with a question, right?
Yeah, just in the minutes, it talks about Councillor Bland requested the road condition assessment from ASCETIC be made available for ratepayers to view. The director provided a response. There's 3 things there, Councillor Arthur as well, I think. 2. Councillor Arthur had asked a question and it said director had provided a response. Could you please elaborate on those responses, as I wasn't at the meeting and I want to know what happened?
Which question? Sorry, councillor, just try us again. Top of page 3.
So I think it was questions without notice in the minutes. And it relates to 2 questions from Councillor Bland and Councillor Arthur. The Councillor Bland's question was around the road condition assessment from ASCETIC be made available to ratepayers to view, and it says Director Roads and Infrastructure provided a response. What was that response? And Councillor Arthur requested further information on the footpath, weed spraying and chemicals used, and the director provided a response. What was the response to that question, please?
The Mayor, the response regarding the roads was that council administration would provide the information regarding the condition assessment to whoever wants to see it. It's a public document, so that will be made available. Regarding the weed spraying was similar to the answer that we provided to Councillor Taylor's previous question, but the chemicals being used was taken on notice and get back to you regarding that.
So would that be brought back to Infrastructure and Assets, or is this information on the website?
In regards to? The
first one, so with the ASCETIC one, is that information being made available to ratepayers on the website, or how do they get it? And
a summary, sorry for interrupting.
No, that's fine. And with regards to Councillor Arthur's, where will the chemical use be placed? So will that be brought back to Infrastructure and Assets or to the whole council?
So the information regarding the condition assessment, a summary-based information pack will be developed. There's 2,000 kilometres of road to be condition assessments, and the volume of data with regards to that will be massive. To put that on the website may become confusing, and how we put that information out to the community as well as yourselves is something that we'll need to look at. More than happy to sit down with someone and go through it line by line, but it would take a significant amount of time. So how we provide that information is something we need to think about. With regards to the chemicals, I can't answer that right now. I've got to take that on notice. I've spoken about the program with regards to spraying, but the actual chemical is something I'm not aware of.
And that was what was relayed to Infrastructure and Assets?
Yep.
Thank you.
There's a seconder. Councillor Lang, are you the seconder? If you unmute, it'll be really good.
Sorry, just a question, Mr. Mayor.
You don't want to be the seconder?
I'll second it if you like. I was present at the meeting and I'm wondering why I wasn't included in the attendance.
because it's a meeting of the committee, councillor, and you were at the meeting, but because you're not a member of the committee, you are not included as an attendee per se.
Neither are other staff members of the committee. I thought as a councillor, at least I should be included in the attendance list.
You can probably seek some more advice again, councillor. You're still remaining the seconder of the minutes,
Yes.
I hope.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any further debate around that recommendation?
Could
Councillor Coleman, then Arthur.
I just ask one question, Mr Mayor? There is one specific motion in there. The recommendation the council receive the minutes. It doesn't say we accept what's in the minutes. So the one that is regarding the plant and fruit renewal program for 2021, would we require a separate motion after these are passed?
Comes up as a
make
report
sure
later,
that's it?
councillor, I believe.
Yes.
So the process would be now, if it requires further council endorsement,
Okay,
it
thank
will
you.
come up as a separate item in the report. It's already pulled out.
I thought I saw it there, but I can't find it now.
Somewhere here, it's not far away. You'll get to it. The item number 12.1. Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just have a comment, if I may, and it's and I'd like to thank Councillor Taylor for asking the question early on, because it's a bit difficult for me to ask the same question without notice again, and because unfortunately we weren't being recorded down there at Meningie, and just like Councillor Roundtree says, we have directors or managers just providing a response where now we can hear a actual answer, and it sort of takes out of that information shortfall when we have a question without notice. So I'm glad that the questions were raised, because I've been approached by a constituent regarding weed management, and we've had some information given to us. The beauty of recording. Thank you.
So, as a general position, councillors, the recordings are very useful. Some people provide a bit of discipline on us to lift our game. But if we're to take a works committee out and look at what we do, fortunately the technology is not really that good yet. That makes that easy, and it only works really in this chamber. I would note that last Friday we met at Karoonda, and we're now meeting in the supper room of the hall for our regional meetings of MRLGA, and technology really wasn't working satisfactory for the Zoom. So it's a finicky thing still. And so there's a plus and a minus in us having committee meetings outside of this chamber. I think I've got a mover and a seconder somewhere. I have. Is there any further debate around that? Councillor Lang, your arm's up. Can I look at?
And yes, I've got Mike. Just comment to Councillor Qualman's query. I would raise the point. Unfortunately, it's in regard to the LGA requirements. Questions without notice are only recorded in brief unless otherwise motioned by someone in that meeting. So perhaps members of the committee, if they want the answer to be recorded correctly, they need to bear in mind to ask the motion for the minutes, for the response to be recorded in full.
Right, councillor. Okay. Is there any further? There appears to be none. Put that recommendation. The council receives the minutes of the Coorong Infrastructure and Assets Committee meeting held on the 10th of August at Meningie. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. Number 2, the Tintanoa War Memorial Hall Committee minutes of the meeting of the 12th of July. So I move that recommendation, please. Councillor Arthur, you're moving that way. Anything to say? Is not. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hill is the seconder. Any discussion around that? Councillor Qualman.
Well, thank you, Mr Mayor. I might have been reading some previous correspondence incorrectly, but I thought there was the key safe issue has been rectified. Is that true?
Mayor, these are minutes from the 12th of July. They've been rectified since then.
The key safe issue we understand has been resolved. Is there anyone else wish to add to the debate at all? Take it as closed, councillor. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. I move to the Canal Soldiers Memorial Swimming Pool minutes of the meeting of the 31st of May. Does someone move that way, please? Councillor Rountree, then Councillor Taylor on this one. Councillor Rountree, any discussion?
Yeah, I'm just going to turn my vacuum cleaner off. Hold on.
Not relevant to what we're discussing.
I know, but you're not going to be able to hear me if I didn't turn it off. So now you can hear me. I have a couple of questions. Just wanting to, I'm wanting an update on the recruitment campaign for the swimming pool attendants. It said there that the committee members or the volunteer pool committee members closed on the 9th of August 21. Was there much response to that campaign?
CEO, I'll have a go at that.
I'll start the conversation, and then I know that some staff met about this again today. I need to flag with you that we are having a very difficult time finding staff to both in the casual positions and in the life-saving positions. Every pool council across South Australia is looking for suitably qualified staff. There have been changes to what qualifications mean. We had trouble last year when it was a bronze medallion. We're having even more trouble now because there are changes in terms of qualifications which are just very short on the ground. So we need to flag with you that we are looking at other ways of possibly staffing the pool. There are private providers who we are approaching as a collective, but we may have to do it with other pools and other councils around the vicinity. But at this stage, it's going to be probably as difficult as it was last year to find staff. Matt, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, through the mail, we only had one applicant for the lifeguard position. The pool attendant / COMFAC officer has not yet closed. So only the lifeguard positions has closed, and we only had one application.
Thank you. This is obviously going to be a big problem because keeping that pool open following all the requirements we're supposed to follow is going to be very tricky and disappointing if we can't actually do it. Some of the other things that were on the list, effective social media, things like better signage for the pool, the banking system that they raised, those sorts of issues, have they been collected somewhere to have a look at or been resolved? Especially the banking issue?
I don't have an update on that. I can find that out for you, councillor. Just back to the staffing. I agree, it will be a very difficult. It may be that we need to vary the hours, or we may need to do something a little different, and it could be that we don't open Monday, Tuesday, and we have a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday arrangement, depending on what. And we also may have a community meeting to see if there's any interest in the community if we go down there and talk about how difficult it is. But most people would have to go and get some qualifications.
I think that's a really good idea, Bridget, that we do have that community meeting. I think everyone needs to be aware of what's going on, and you never know, it might actually provoke some people to come and actually do something or help out.
Okay, Councillor Lang.
Just a question to the CEO, or to the director, or both. With our COVID issues, I'm just wondering if that's been factored into workplace environment and requirements of any oncoming staff, COVID vac and all that sort of stuff.
So any requirements from South Australian Health around whatever's happening at that a particular time with COVID, we would follow those instructions. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, yeah. I'm just thinking, if a person that hasn't had the vaccinations, applying for the job, and how they're going to do CPR or similar to other staff at the swimming pool.
So at this particular point in time, vaccinations aren't mandatory. And I suspect we don't have a right to ask. I think it'd be more of a risk in terms of, like we would do with any other particular issue, assess the risk to the person and to the community, and then make a decision one way or the other. But that would be tricky at this point. And for most of you who would listen to the news at this point in time, it's a matter of discussion around the country about vaccinations, the level of mandatory requirements for which industries and so forth. And we would just follow whatever the advice is at that time. And there would be advice in regards to swimming pools. We're not the only council with a swimming pool across the district or across Australia.
Understand. Yes, you can't compel someone to take the vaccine under the Constitution. You can't.
Thank you.
You find a lot of leverage.
Councillors, I'll just make you aware that either we're going to adjourn this very quickly or we're going to, as Miles needs to leave the meeting very soon, and the next couple of items are around his responsibility. So I am going to be very quick. Councillors, Arthur, will you want to say something quickly?
I'll just quickly make a comment. The CEO, don't worry, about 5 other councillors in the same position can't get anyone to work in a pool.
Makes it more difficult. Councillor Qualman, any more to add?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through the chair to Councillor Roundtree. Councillor Roundtree, what was the feeling amongst the committee regarding potential change or may occur of the naming of the pool and complex?
My understanding is they were keen to keep it very much still the Canal pool, but just add Soldiers Memorial into it was the outcome.
We've done, Councillor, I believe. Thank you, councillors. I'm sorry, I'm going to truncate this debate now. Is there anyone else? Councillor Roundtree will close. You're going to close, councillor? Thank
Closed.
you. Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. I'll move on. And as I said, I've got a few minutes with Miles here. 11.1. Final draft of the Murraylands and Riverland Regional Public Health and Wellbeing Plan. There is a recommendation. Councillor Qualman, are you moving? Thank you. Councillor Jentsch is the seconder. Either of you wish to speak to this?
No, Mr Mayor. Very comprehensive, thank you.
Miles, do you wish to have 1 minute to explain? Grab the mic. What this is, how important this is, please.
Well, Your Worship, this is probably the first time we've set up a very practical regional public health plan. So it aligns very clearly to our community vision plan, and they're very working with, especially with Councillor Bland. I thank her for her contribution. What we've come up with is very, again, practical, cost-effective steps forward. And what I'll say also is that this is a document that will be live and will be reviewed on an annual basis. So if there's new priorities come in, we'll be able to respond to that.
Thanks, Miles. And I thank everyone involved. It's been quite a long process and both regionally driven, but the councils have definitely driven it. And I think we've got to a good result. I have a mover and a seconder. Yes, I do. I don't wish to speak. Is anyone else? There being no one, you'll close.
I'll close. Thank you, Mr.
I'll
Mayor.
put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Thanks for that. Item number 2, development application update through this Plan SA transition. Is that the word? Transition. Councillor Qualman, are you moving that way?
Yes.
Councillor Jentsch is the seconder. You'll act, you two. Any discussion, councillors that have moved in second? Do you want to lead? Happy? Anyone else with questions around the motion? It is as it reads. That is that council receive and note the development application progress report. There is none. Closing.
Closing. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor.
I put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Number 3, the community land management plan for the Pangarinda Community and Botanic Garden. Sorry. Councillor Jentsch, you're moving that way. You're a seconder. Councillor, I'm going to take Councillor Taylor. Councillors, I appreciate I occasionally look at the main screen and occasionally at this one. I get a very different Little flash in my brain. Councillor Jens, you wish to say anything?
Oh, Mr Mayor.
The Taylor. Wish to add anything? Let her know because you're muted at the moment.
Close, Mr Mayor.
No. I'm trying to work
Yeah,
out
very
whether
nice.
Taylor was up, but she was muted. That was why I heard nothing. You don't want to say
Yeah,
anything?
can we get oversight of the two responses?
Just looking that up now. Is that what you would like, councillor?
Yep.
Councillor Qualman, you got a question in the meantime while we find that?
Yes, I have a query. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Performance targets is manage weeds to ensure botanic garden success. Also, further down it says performance measures, inspection facilities annually to ensure high standard of maintenance. My concern is there's prolific growth. There's a lot of vegetation, and we're very proud of it, but also that's a huge fuel load. And how are we getting on? I don't see anything written in here regarding fire management. And I know being down there along the boundary fences and that, it's impossible for emergency vehicles to have any egress because of overgrowth vegetation. So I would have thought something like that would have been in there, Mr Mayor.
Your Worship, fire prevention officer, a fire prevention officer has done a lot of good work in Wellington East in terms of creating buffer around the township itself. Can I take your points to him and get some feedback and ensure then that we're also applying the appropriate fire prevention strategies to this park?
Yeah, I just had a bit of concern, that's all about that, Mr.
Yeah, councillor, as would be the case, that we would have a fire prevention plan which for council lands which would incorporate this in a different format. Someone asked what about the two submissions? Two submissions were received. The main concern noted was placing the burden of collecting visitor numbers onto members of the Section 41 committee. As a result, wording within the plan has now been amended to reflect council staff undertaking this task. In the meantime, a counter device has been installed on the main entry gate. Second concern was the address stated on the CLMP for the Pangaringa Botanic Garden, which does not match the common address used for the property. It is to be noted that the address on the plan is the address used by the Lands Titles Office and is required for the purpose of the plan. It is not envisaged that visitors would consult the CLMP before visiting the garden. One in the second, a legal issue. Hope that answers everyone's questions. Is there any further debate around this? Taylor, yes.
So through you, Mayor, the document that's included, the Community Land Management Plan, is this it in full? 2 pages?
Your Worship, what we will have eventually is a management plan for this land that is a lot more comprehensive. This really is a legal document to satisfy local government act requirements. We wanted to achieve this, and then we'll move on to, as I said, developing towards the end of the year. We'll start putting a lot of work into that, a full-scale management plan. Now, we've already got a draft on that, so a lot of work has been done. But what we want to do is carefully, I suppose, manage that through the stakeholder engagement process.
Councillor, yep. Taylor.
Through you, Mayor. So is that being done through with the Section 41 committee? So in consultation with it and those volunteers who do work up there. One of the things that comes to mind is if one of their concerns is managing the visitor numbers, how do staff do that on weekends, etc., and what would that look like? Would that be included in the plan as well?
Through you, Mayor, correct, Councillor Taylor. The management plan will be fairly comprehensive because, as you allude, we have 4 volunteers down there. Most of them are coming to the end of their volunteer life. I don't think they'll mind me saying that, will they, Councillor Qualman? And so we need to ensure that from a council perspective, because it's a council asset, that we have a fairly comprehensive plan of how the actual Botanic Gardens is managed. We will come back to you with that plan. It will be in consultation with the volunteers, but it will also, I think, be in consultation with the broader community as to what they think that asset how it should look and what it should look like over the coming years. And
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. Councillors, I'm going to put the recommendation. All those in favour? Councillor Lang, I'm going to take it that you're in favour because you've gone to a different photo on the screen.
Yes.
Yep,
Yes.
thank you. Yep, no, okay. That is carried unanimously. Item number 4, Community Land Management Plan for Rogers Park, Tail and Bend. The recommendation, Councillor Coleman and then Councillor Yench. Any discussion, councillors?
No, Mr Mayor, it's pretty straightforward.
Straightforward, councillor. Anyone else around this subject? Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Miles. You need to leave early. Thank you very much. We move to number 12, infrastructure. Report, plant and
Henry.
fleet. Sorry, I lost my way here. There is a recommendation. Councillor Arthur, you moving that way? And Councillor Coleman, you're the seconder. Astute readers of reports would note that's not the entire list of plant we wish to obtain this financial year, but it's the stuff that can move forward immediately without any great changes. And in the current environment, we need to move now, and I'm pleased to see we are moving early in the year, and particularly since we have no water trucks at present. Any debate around this, councillors? Being none, we're closing, councillor. Yes. Put the motion. All those in favour? Oh, in favour, please. Councillor Hill, you against? I don't think Councillor Hill can hear me. Nod your head if you can hear me, Councillor Hill. Now you have to unmute. Still can't hear you.
Give the thumbs up.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Are you voting for or against number 12.1? You're voting for it. Thank you. Sorry, I had no other direction from you. I therefore declare that carried unanimously. I seek council's leave to introduce, where is the late item?
Right at the back.
Right at the back. Councillors, I believe it would be prudent to bring forward the late item with the leave of the meeting. Anyone object to that?
Confidential?
Before the confidentials, where is the late item? Sorry.
It was voted for.
Sorry?
It's already done.
Done.
People voted for it.
It's for the bushfire phone towers. What's that? Oh, we did. Wasn't a late item.
The report was late. The item was voted for.
All right. We don't need to accept the report. It was late. Fine. Petitions. There is nil. Item 14, deputations. I have none. Item 15, I have no questions either lodged with us, Ashley. There is item 15, sorry, is information document. Council has got anything they wish to raise out of the information document. Information document, councillors, any issues you have is please, 1, 2, 3. Councillor Roundtree, yes.
Just again, I noticed that the Meningie Skate Park has also been referred to in this document as the Coorong District Skate Park. I just think we need to, if we're going to do it, we just need to formalise it properly through a motion instead of just changing it willy-nilly. I've raised it before, it keeps showing up. So can we resolve this one way or the other and do it properly rather than it's just been decided without any consultation?
Through you,
And
there was no decision made. That was really just a shorthand. It's not like it's been, sorry, there has been no decision made about the naming, and I would suggest that once the skate park's built, there could be then a community consultation about the name. We should change that back in all documents. That's just been missed, councillor.
okay, thank you. I'd appreciate it, so I didn't have to raise it again. And my second one is around the completion date of the pool. It was never November, December. That is right in the middle of their season. The work needs to be done prior or after that swimming period. And I think just the language and wording needs to be changed. It's sort of aggravating people that for some reason council felt it was a completion date in November, December was actually even a reasonable thing to consider when it's just not.
Which page, councillor, are you referring to?
It's under I haven't got it written down. I've only just got notes.
You're referring to the Canal Pool building, not the pool, I presume.
The Canal Pool building and the work that was going to go on.
Yep.
It was in the, yeah, so it's in the report and it just talks
Yep.
about the original completion date was November, December. And I don't think the original completion date was ever that. It was always meant to be prior to the season.
It may have been, but the director will answer your question.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. The time of writing the report, the tenders of the works at the pool had not yet been received or assessed. That has now occurred. So we've completed the first part of our tender assessment where we had 2 submissions. The work will be programmed with the successful tenderer with the timing of the pool opening in mind. So if the successful tenderer is able to complete the works prior to the date of the pool season, we'll proceed post haste. If there's any risk in that not being met, then we'll delay the works to after the pool season. That may incur additional costs, but any decision based on that risk will be communicated and socialised so that we don't place the pool opening in jeopardy.
Thank you.
2 questions, councillor. Councillor Bland, I think you had your hand up. No, you didn't. Okay, councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the Infrastructure and Assets section, Tintinara headstones, we seem to be just running neutral on there. There's been no worsening change to the stains on the headstones. However, the water's been turned off and now council intentions are to seek a intention from contractors to do a once-off work on the headstones. Does someone update how we're going with that, and is that going to be some horrific cost to council? And someone ask that, please.
The councillors, there's been some work done on this, and the price to repair most of them is large. I think the best thing we can do is seek a report from the management, probably be the next month. It's become a bit more complex than perhaps we first envisaged. So I just think we're best waiting for the report around the options around this subject, if we could, please. The same talks about a trial of the water use there up to the 30th of June. I presume we're ongoing with what I'd call mains water at the moment.
We won't be going back.
We won't be going back because of the issues it's caused, but nonetheless, we'll have an idea up to the 30th of June of the costs, I'd hope, around water, or up to a metre reading date around the use of mains water in that area.
For you, Mayor, probably cheaper than cleaning them.
And it may be cheaper than cleaning it, which is very interesting with SA water pricing, council, you're aware. So
Consumption, if you want.
So it's unfortunately a subject which is giving us some more issues than we felt.
Yes.
Yes. Do you have another one? Yes.
I'm still on the same subject. I'd just like to close off that it's just important that we do the best we can to care for a cemetery of ours.
We will, yes. Can you add, Matt?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have been speaking to a very reputable memorial and headstone contractor, which is based in Adelaide. They're on West Terrace opposite the Adelaide Road Cemetery, so the Adelaide Cemetery. So they are very reputable and know what they're doing. As you alluded to, it's very important that Whatever we do there is done respectfully, and you know, we're talking about the memories of people. So, and it's a very emotive subject. So the work there is being treated with as much respect and caution as we can. Obviously, there will be some costs involved, but we are also seeking advice from our insurers regarding whether there's any ability for us to make a claim against that.
Very good. Thanks, mate.
Yes, councillor Arthur.
But Councillor Kwame stole my thunder here, but there seemed to be a lot of toing and froing here. I've sent quite a few emails to the CEO regarding this, and I've got quite a few answers back, but now it's different because I've been up there the other day and every headstone has got a green dot on it. A green dot means it's got to be clean. We still have the sign up saying we know there's a problem with the water and we're doing something about it, which is not right. Some time ago when we shut the bore water off again. But we were told that everybody was notified, yet only a fortnight ago there was a telephone call here, or it might have been 3 weeks ago, it was a telephone call, and office who answered the phone said, yes, check on the website. So they went on the website and it wasn't on there. And it was referred through, I think, to, I think it went to Justin, and they found out it wasn't on the website, so they put it up. So there were so many things that weren't happening, and there were so many people that weren't being notified. So now so we're virtually going to do all the headstones there now without notifying them. That's all the people want. I get asked this all the time.
So remember, through you, Mayor, so remember a couple of council meetings ago, Councillor, I mentioned that because we couldn't notify everybody, or we couldn't wait for them to notify us that they wanted to be done. It was an opt-out system. So that's why the notice is up to say, we will be cleaning these headstones unless you want to opt out of the system. So not everybody would have got a notification because we know that some people don't visit those graves on occasion. But I think reputationally, it would have been too difficult for us to clean 2 because people had notified us. And then we left 4, then we cleaned another 2 because people had notified us. So in the end, we said, if you don't contact us or if we don't hear from anybody, these headstones will be cleaned. So it was never a case that we would notify everybody. We had to find a way of working out how we would clean them, understanding that some people may never ever visit those graves.
That's okay. And the reason I asked that with the green dots, because I didn't know what the green dots were for.
Thank you, councillors. Any other questions? There being no more questions, I move to item 16, which is the confidential items. So for those watching the live stream, please be advised that the meeting is about to move into confidence and the live stream will stop. For those who wish to view the end of the meeting, the video will be available on YouTube after today's meeting. So we will stop the recording and the live streaming.